Salute Nick family. Welcome to the Queen's Court. I'm your host, Stephanie, or Queen, however you want, however you want to call me. Um, so if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button so you'll be notified anytime anything goes live or Sim drops a video on this channel. Shout out to Sim, the creator of this channel. As you know, forever grateful. Tonight we're talking all things Derrick Rose. Should he be traded? Should he remain on the team? We lost Taj Gibson. Do we need him for leadership? What does that mean for IQ playing the backup point guard? I think Brunson is going to play. I know Brunson is going to play the bulk of those minutes. Not going to be a lot left behind him. If Rose is still here, again, what does that mean for IQ? And then also the rumors that in addition to Grimes, the Knicks also would like to hold on to Rose. So we're going to talk about all of that. I'm joined by Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises, DJ Shuttle, I am Jarrell, and Stafford Don, resident panelist on Dope Soul Sports Talk. Salute, fellas. How are you?
He's great.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Can't complain, man. Another episode, Queen. Another episode.
All right. All right. So listen, let's get right into it. Do you want Derrick Rose on this team next season, and why or why not? Shuttle, we're gonna start with you, DJ Shuttle, and then we're gonna come around.
Cool. IQ is nice. I like him, but I don't love him. If I had to pick a healthy Rose or a healthy IQ backing up Brunson, I'm taking D Rose. I'm a big fan of the best ability is availability. So obviously that does concern me. I would just have to have IQ on standby and let him play some games, Rose play some games, and not overuse Rose, and thinking positively about the team that we have, not even thinking about a trade right now. But if we're going as is, every team needs a good OG on it. You know what I mean? Every team needs a good OG. And right now, Rose is that guy. You know, you don't have to depend on him, but you can have him for quarters. You could have him for select games. You could have him for games when you're playing teams that are a little bit more stacked with veterans, you know. And I think that's how you use them selectively. And we know Brunson's going to easily play 32 minutes a game. So, we know we don't need a lot of time from Rose. And I think that's an ideal fit for him. And while also anticipating the trade for Spider, I'm okay with losing IQ and keeping Rose as the backup. And then you can use Juice as the third string at the point guard spot.
But let me just ask you for clarification. If Donovan Mitchell is not here, you have Rose backing up Brunson. And what does that mean for IQ's minutes?
I'm not worried about IQ.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, he plays when he plays. And I think that with Rose, you're going to give Rose games off here and there. You're going to have certain matchups on certain teams where maybe you feel like you're more of a favorite on that team and you can maybe get away with IQ playing and you're not going to use Rose here and there. And you kind of use it a little bit more sporadically. I don't think that IQ has earned the right to be the backup over Rose at all. You know what I'm saying? I think it's quite the opposite. I think if Rose is healthy and available, he's definitely earned the right. He proved the year before a healthy Rose took us to the playoffs. It was Rose that took us to the playoffs. Let us not forget. Let's keep our memories intact. So as long as he's healthy, he's in there. IQ, you play when you play. And if the deal doesn't happen, I will still want Grimes as my backup shooting guard. I don't want Rose and IQ in there. Give me Rose. Give me Grimes. Give me Cam. Give me Obi. Give me Hardestein. And I'm feeling real strong about that backup lineup.
Wow. That's some strong statements. Tony, before I get to you, we'll double back to Stafford because y'all switched it up on me. Stafford wasn't there.
You know what? think it got more. You say 32 minutes for Brunson. I think the rest of the minutes could split up between Rose and IQ. It's not the first time. Not the first time they didn't play together. They have played together, and they have been a good tandem. So I see nothing wrong with them playing together. Now, if one of them is off that night, I see the other one probably playing more minutes, right? Because not every night is going to be your night.
So just to ask, you would rather have Rose and IQ instead of Rose and Grimes?
No, but Grimes could play the 3.
No. When you say you wasn't
Grimes
saying you weren't saying splitting those 16 minutes behind Brunson. You're saying have him play the 2, have him play with Rose.
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Right. He IQ always play off ball while D Rose was in the game.
So
right. And Cam might even be here.
Well,
you don't know.
We're going for what he's here. And this is the thing, and this is why I really wish I would have at least had a slide of the Knicks roster. Because one of the things you're going to see when you look at the Knicks roster is once you start playing people in different positions, that decreases the time of somebody else. Because as Tony has said on another show, this is the most balanced team we've had. So now if you're going to play IQ at the 2 and Grimes at the 3, that's less minutes for Cam. If you want Randall and Obi to play together, so you want Randall to have some minutes at the 3, that's less minutes for potentially for Cam.
Well, Queen, I'm not a big fan with everybody talking about like last week with Jarrell and the other guy talking about Randall going to play the 3 because he lost weight. Nah, that is not happening. Right. He's gonna play the 4 and that's it. Why would he? That don't even make no sense. But anyway,
okay.
Anyway,
so you're okay playing 2. Grimes plays the 3 in the way you see it, and that's less minutes for Cam. Because remember, and correct me if you guys disagree, I think there's going to be limited minutes behind Brunson, RJ, and Randall.
Yep.
Now, I could see Fournier with a 28-20 split with whoever's backing him up. Let's just say it goes by, where it was last year. And I could see a 28-20 split between Hartenstein and Mitch. But Brunson, I say at least 32 minutes. I think I'm being conservative. RJ, at least 32 minutes. I believe I'm being conservative. And Randall, if he's here, at least 32 minutes. And I think I'm being conservative. Yep. So everyone's talking about wanting more minutes. The way this roster is constructed and how balanced it is, it may be less minutes for that second team.
Exactly.
But I hear what you're saying. So you would back them up with Rose and put IQ at the 2. Okay. All right.
Right. And it could be a variety to however you want to mix it. You know what I mean? Because as I said, it may have nights Grimes might have it. Right. Cam gonna get a chance to come in and prove himself and probably might do good that night. So it all depends. Mm-hmm. It all depends. But that's my line I'm going in on the second unit.
Okay.
Well, not the second unit, but just my opinion on IQ and Derrick Rose playing together. And I think he will bring leadership and stability to the team also, too, not only with Brunson, but he's going to be a voice in the locker room also, too. So I think Derrick Rose is a well-respected guy around the league. I mean, the guys in the locker room respect him also, too. So, I gotta keep Rose.
Okay. Tony, next season, do you want Rose on this team and why? And do you want him backing up Brunson and why or why not?
I will say I'm not letting Rose be the stopping point of a trade. I will say that. Mm-hmm. But team and I'll say this as well. The team currently constructed as is, I wouldn't be surprised if Rose literally plays the Taj Gibson role in the sense of, break glass in case of emergency,
Yep.
and being preserved for down the stretch and a playoff run potentially, or in the playoffs. And I'm basing that off of him, not even being demoted or saying Tibbs is going to make that decision. I'm saying that might be where he is in his career, and that might be what's best for us if he is here. If you think about, I agree with you, Shuttle. He brought us to the playoffs. Like, he led us. We were 500 ish before he came, and he was a big catalyst in that run. But prior to him coming to the Knicks, he sat most of that season. He wasn't playing with Detroit, so he was well rested, well ready to give us 100% of the guy he is now, which is still great. You know what I mean? But we see what happened last year, and I think his role last year was supposed to be reserved and preserved, if you will. And I think he became a necessity and broke down, and then we didn't have him for the remainder of the year. So that worries me. But yeah, in that Taj Gibson role of, break glass in case of emergency, I'm with keeping him, and that is no disrespect to Derrick Rose. But I think he has to be preserved for him to be the best benefit to us.
So you don't. So okay. So you see him basically situational, but when you talk about him being preserved as a backup, we're talking about 16 minutes max. That's if Brunson plays 32. He might even play more than that. And so we're talking about 10 to 12 minutes a game. Even in a situation like that where he's playing 10 to 12 minutes, you would still prefer him to be situational.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, at least the first half of the season. I want him preserved to one, if we're not in, well, depending on where we are standing wise, come second half, you know what I mean? If it's a push, bring him in. You know what I mean? Then give him that 16. You know what I mean? Figure it out that way, whatever it is. And by then, I think we know who's who, what players are performing, who's shaky. So I think we can adjust by then if need be. But off rip, yeah, I need him as minimal as possible, unless it's a necessity.
Right. Jarrell?
I think he should either be off the team or situational.
Okay.
Either or. I don't think he should just be the primary backup, because at this point, if IQ can't be the backup point guard at year 3, then we have a problem, I think, especially for him. Derrick Rose is also making like over $14 million, and he does not come off the books next year either. He makes almost 16 next year.
No, he
So-
comes off.
No, he comes off.
Team option.
Oh, okay. It's a team option. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But still, even for 1 year to $14 million just to be a leader, and I'm not even sure if he's actually the type of leader that Taj is, because Derrick Rose doesn't seem like he's a vocal leader at all. He like leads by example. So I don't even know if he's the type of leader that we need. He was injured last year for most of the part, so I don't know. It's hard, man. Like these are real minutes that these people got to play. So I can't just say that, we can't just throw away IQ like that. Like, he's definitely going to play, whether he's going to play the 1 or the 2. So the odd man out is Derrick Rose at this point.
Yeah, this is super tough. Because for me, I agree. I would want to see him situational, and have IQ play the backup point guard spot. But these are some good points. The Knicks a good reason why the Knicks were the 4th seed 2 years ago was because of Derrick Rose. You could talk
That is
about
true.
Randall's breakout season, and that was great as well. But you need players down the stretch in the crutch that can either bring you back into games or close games for you. Randall did it for us some, but Rose did it for us. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe he did it for us more times than Randall.
But
Part of the
my
Randall
thing is
breakout,
like
part of the Randall breakout though was the play of Derrick Rose.
yeah. At this point though, he about to be 34, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, he's been injured most of the whole time. So it's not the same Derrick Rose. Like I understand, like we like Derrick Rose. I love Derrick Rose. But I'm just saying, going forward, he might not be the best fit for the team going forward in that. Like he's not going to be able to play every game. Like he's not going to be playing every night. So if he's going to be the backup
Tony was
point,
saying.
no, but if you guys say he should be the backup point guard, not situational. So if
No,
he's going to be the backup point guard, he needs to play every game.
Right.
He can't do that at this point.
So Tony, when you say preserve, right? You was talking about at least in the second half if we're making a push to the playoffs, right? Or,
Yes.
or were you talking about? Okay, so
yes, and I don't mean it to the sense like he like benching him per se, because it may be moments, it may be early in the season where we do need him, and he's there and he's available and healthy. Yeah, utilize him. You know what I mean? But if things are clicking and he could rest and be ready, you know, in blowouts, just so he's still active, or or when need be, if we're getting blown out and we need a change of pace and somebody who could maybe settle things down. I don't know if Brunson misses some time for whatever reason, Quickley misses some time for whatever reason. Like I think he's a good asset to have, but I don't want to rely on him from
the
beginning of the season to the end. I'd much rather work him into the rotation as need be, and know that we have a guy who can lead us and close, and you know what I mean. Like it may be a learning curve for Brunson where we need Rose to kind of settle things down because it's just not clicking right away. So it's tons of reasons to keep him, but I don't want him. I want him situational and used as needed.
Okay. Shout out to Louisiana Knicks. Appreciate the super chat. I wouldn't mind keeping Rose if we trade Quickley. If they keep Quickley, you can move Rose for more playing time for Quickley. And the reason I'm bringing this up, somebody asked in the chat why are we even talking about this. There was a rumor that the Knicks want to keep Grimes out of any potential trade for Donovan Mitchell, but they also want to keep Derrick Rose out of any potential trade for Donovan Mitchell. So they value him. Now, do they value him as a situational player, as me and Tony and Jarrell are talking about, or are they looking at him as the backup point guard? And maybe, part of it is that, they believe IQ is going to go in the trade. So they can't give up both IQ and Derrick Rose. Maybe, maybe that's a part of it as well. Before I welcome in Gavin, there's just one other comment here. So, while we're talking about this, the Knicks are going to go young. They traded all the vets. I mean, if this trade, I'm not sure that's the case, because I think the Knicks had an opportunity to double down in the draft if they were going really young, and they didn't. So it's possible that if this trade goes through, we're gonna lose a few of our young players. I still think we're gonna be young. Donovan Mitchell is 25. We'll still be young, but I don't see this as a youth movement as much as I see this as moving the young guys for the right player and the right deal. Let me welcome in Gavin, and then we'll continue talking about Derrick Rose. Hello, Gavin. Oh, let me move. Okay, appreciate it. How are you? How's everything?
What's good, everybody? What's up, Steph?
Salute.
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome. We're talking about Derrick Rose. And I guess, everybody had their takes. Do you want to see Derrick Rose on this team next season and why?
I don't mind seeing him on this team. I think it's kind of two things for me. If nothing else, I think one thing that like the COVID year and everything showed us is if for some reason, somebody has to go down again for health and safety protocols, things like that, injuries do happen. You do need to have a backup point guard. Whether something happens to IQ or to Brunson, like you do have to have somebody. Um, I don't and I do think he can still give you valuable minutes in situational, and be situational. I don't expect him to be, the full-time backup. I do expect that if IQ was here going into this season, I do expect them, to hand it over to IQ. But I do think that it's also good just to have some veteran presence. And I think that him playing for Tibbs for so long, being in the league for so long, and you can kind of see the development that he helped with last year with IQ and the young guys. So I do think that he's good for the locker room, and just to have that veteran morale on the team. But I don't mind him being on the team next year. I also don't mind if they do move him.
Yeah. I mean, I asked Tony this question already, and then Tony, I'll get to you. He's only going to play 12 minutes. I mean, it's not going to be a lot of time left behind Brunson. So if IQ is here, I'd be interested to see how they get even IQ more time, right? Brunson is going to play at least 32 minutes, if not more. Does that make you more comfortable with him as the backup, that he may just be playing 12 minutes a game, or do you still feel he should be situational?
You talking about Rose?
Yes.
If it's only 12 minutes, I mean, I'm fine with D Rose playing 12 minutes. Now, I would like to see IQ still with the team and running with that with the young guys, but if it's solely situational, but then I mean, you also got to think about. I mean, I don't know how many years Derrick Rose really has left, on those knees, on this body. So, I mean, would I rather have Derrick Rose and then potentially lose him next year, the year after, or, God forbid something does happen to him and injury in those 12 minutes? Or would I rather just go ahead and have IQ there for those 12 minutes? Personally, I'd rather just go ahead and have IQ there. Because I said, if there is nights that, Brunson, they decide to give him a day off or things like that, or for some reason, minute restrictions, like I'd rather have IQ going in there for longevity purposes.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be I was shocked. I didn't expect Rose to be on the team next year. And to your point, DJ Shuttle, everything you said about what he brought for us, he has a lot of support in the league, in the chat as well. Somebody said Rose playing 12 minutes, crazy. He didn't use crazy, but another word. So in other words, and then someone else said what he did for us again a year ago. We're really going to need him.
I'm missing what has IQ done that you got carte blanche. Like what has IQ really done? He's not even a point guard. He's a shooting guard trying to learn to play point guard. Like I can't even trust this guy. I can't trust him.
So do you see IQ at the shooting guard position? Because now you move him to shooting guard, then what do you do?
I got Grimes over him at shooting guard.
So
IQ is to me. IQ is an undersized shooting guard attempting to try to play point guard. That's not efficient enough, and can't get the team involved. He can't finish at the hoop real well. He gets stuck trying to make these floating shots, drawing fouls. He thinks he's Steph Curry shooting the deep threes too much. I'm personally over IQ. I think the fans have him overrated that are on the New York Knicks, that are New York Knicks fans. I think our fan base has them overrated, as usual with our players. Like overrating our players. I think IQ is severely overrated by our fans, and I understand like playing Rose situational. I would kind of like split the minutes in the games between him and IQ, give IQ another chance to earn it this year. And if he's playing great, to Tony's point, all right, he's playing great, cool. We stash Rose until late in the season or as needed type of thing. But to me, Rose has by far earned the right with the game and the ability for his last year on the contract. Yeah, I'm gonna let Rose hold it down because you know what? You're putting him off the bench. You got a young Obi off the bench. You likely have a young Cam off the bench. You have a young Grimes off the bench. You have a young Hardestein off the bench. So I'm gonna put a young IQ off the bench too. At some point, there has to be a balance of old players and young players. And I don't want to put 5 young players on the court together as my backup lineup. I got to have somebody that's the veteran out there. So to me, I mean, locker room, of course, Rose, and then just leadership on the court. I think will make it easier for the younger players.
Okay, Tone, and then Gavin.
I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I think Jarrell mentioned Rose as lack of leadership. I think he just doesn't lead publicly, but I think as far as leadership, we've heard about it from the young guys. So I think he's actually really good there. I think he's like good on the bench as well. So I just think it's not like a on the court vocal type of thing. I think he kind of talks to them to the side, if anything. I just want to point out, Shuttle, I'm definitely not opposed to valuing one over the other, especially if we're talking about a trade for Mitchell. You know what I mean? Like either one of them can go, and I'm not saying one over the other, because you know, obviously Rose's value in the trade is the money, you know what I mean, as opposed to what we're losing from them, and then in that aspect, you know, I'm willing to rock with Quickley, but
True.
Then on the flip side, if they're both here, that's another reason why I go with Quickley first. Like Gavin said, it's the longevity thing. It's he's going to assume he's going to be here longer. You know what I mean, for as far as years. So like, why stun him? He hasn't been a liability. I think he's improved tremendously from last year, especially in the new role, and then during the season, he's improved at that role. So, I mean, I'm not saying he can't lose it, but that's one of the benefits. Like, he can lose it to Rose if he's having a bad stretch or not being productive in that Rose. I mean, in that role, Rose is right there to take the helm, and we don't bat an eye. So, I mean, I just wanted to clarify that.
Right. I mean, this is what I'll say. Like when people say IQ has proved it, I think a lot of times we look at his stats. We look at his shooting, which is not great, actually. He's shooting 39%, right? So he may have a good stroke, and I believe he can be a good shooter, but I believe that his shot selection is what's bringing his efficiency down. So I think when we look at IQ, we're looking at his defense, which has we're looking at individual aspects of his game. His playmaking has improved, his defense has improved. But when you're thinking about a point guard manning the second team, decision making is super important. You know, decision making is super important. You know, knowing when to shoot, when to pass, who to pass it to. So when I'm thinking about the point guard, I'm not thinking about can he defend the position. He can defend the position. I'm not thinking about can he play make. Yes, he can play make. He's improved tremendously as a playmaker. I definitely see that. His shooting, I think the shooting becomes an issue. That's part of the decision making. That's part of the shot selection. You know, he just and he'll get better with this in time. And he has gotten better. It just seems to me he hasn't nailed it down. When should I shoot? When should I set up my teammates? When should I just be a facilitator? And when is it time for me to take a shot? Now he's gotten better at it. He's not there. And he's and Derrick Rose, you can argue, is not a playmaking point guard either. But
about to say the same thing.
yeah. He's not a playmaking point guard either, but I still think his decision making is better than than
IQ.
IQ.
IQ. Queen, I would argue that the reason his playmaking has gotten better is due to the fact of Derrick Rose leadership. Because to your point, he's not a facilitating guard, but what he does is he reads. He reads because he makes the other team react. So now that once you start knowing that you control the other team with your offense, it's an easy way. It becomes easy to break them down, and then it really becomes just making the right read. With Tibbs preaches anyway. So,
but do you think he's yet with that?
No, I mean he's not a finished product at all. You know what I mean? But I would argue that Rose has helped him in that area. As I'm just going back to that leadership thing, because that's what Rose did. He controlled the defense and made the right read. As simple as that. And you would think, as much as Tibbs preached it, that's not something that he just started saying. You know what I mean? So whether Rose got it from Tibbs or vice versa, or just, you know what I mean? I think he's helped Quickley in that aspect of just making the right read. And that'll help you enough to be a facilitator in that role.
Right. What do we think about this? I'll start. I disagree.
Fournier is our best shooter.
39% from the field. And I think a lot of times we look at the stroke. He has a really good stroke. He does, but he shoots 39% from the field. And I want to say 35% from three, maybe more. I have to take a look at it. He's not our best shooter by any stretch. 39%. He has to get. You can't shoot 39%. You know, he has to get better.
39 from the field, 36.5 from three.
That free throw, though.
Free throw, 88.5 from the line.
Yeah,
and he had a couple games where he missed a couple free throws in the game. Like, yo, what's going on?
Now, when he misses, it's like, wow, he missed.
Right. Does anything change in your opinion with Donovan if we get Donovan Mitchell? Well, I think if we get Donovan Mitchell, let's just say hypothetically we get Donovan Mitchell and IQ is still here. I don't think that's going to be the case. But does that change now? Because if you got Donovan on the team, I would think that now I think the Knicks are trying to make the playoffs anyway. But I think if you put Donovan on this team, like you really trying to like finish in the top 6. Does that change who you want to back up the team if Mitchell is here? And let's just say we still have Rose and IQ. No?
I just want to amend my previous statement. If it's a trade for Mitchell, then I think Derrick Rose is more valuable keeping than Quickley. And
that's a
just
better
because you know what I mean. Like, not saying we're contenders, but we're closer to that. And I want Derrick Rose if we're closer to contention. You know what I mean. I want him over Quickley, who is not a finished product and still has a lot to learn. But what was your exact question?
Well, actually, I like your question better. If we're going to get Donovan Mitchell, who would you rather keep, Rose or IQ? I think that's a better question. Gavin, we'll go back. We'll go around this way.
I think to Tone's point, Rose is the finished product, IQ's not. So in the immediate future, like if we're contending next season, to me, Rose is the better option. I think too is still of longevity and health. If we're thinking in the long run terms, I think IQ is the better fit than Rose is because, like I said, there's just not a lot of miles left on the knees. I think the one thing that people kind of forget about IQ is going into year 3 now, correct? Mm-hmm. So year 3, right? Mm-hmm. So into DJ Shuttle, your point, he's not a point guard. He's always been a natural 2 guard that scores the ball and then likes to play off the pick and roll. And you see the leaps and bounds that he made from year 1 to year 2. And it's not his fault that he's not a point guard because he's never had to play that role. That's the role the Knicks have put him in. So there is going to be a big learning curve from somebody who is a shot chucker, somebody who goes out there and likes to get up a lot of shots. Now, the one thing that I do like, and I say it's hard to teach players in the league, is somebody who has IQ's mentality. Like, he's never going to shy away from the moment. He's going to shoot himself into a slump. He's going to shoot himself out of a slump. He can go 1 of 20 and he's still going to take the 21st shot. There's a lot of players like we saw with Randall last year who he'll miss the first 6, 7 shots. And then you can kind of see like he doesn't really want the ball a lot more. He's not trying to put up shots, things like that, because people are going to talk about it being bad shots. So I think that there is something to say, like I said, about IQ's relentless mentality
John Starks mentality.
Yeah, and like I said, because you have to have those people. Because I mean, if the game is on the line and they kick it out,
them at point guard though? Do you have to have those type of people at point guard? That's the question.
So I think the other thing is too is just as the league evolved, like there is no true point guards anymore. Everybody, it's wings now. So like I said, Jalen Brunson is probably one of the last people in the league, and like Lonzo Ball, that are the definitions of kind of pure can play off the ball pass first point guards. Everybody else is now just wings who score the ball that happen to handle the ball. Like Donovan Mitchell, he would be the point guard in the Jazz, but Donovan Mitchell's not a point guard. He's a 2 guard who has the ball in his hand all the time. So I think for longevity factor, I think I would prefer IQ because I still think that he has a lot of room to grow. And to Tone's point, like you can teach somebody how to make the right read, especially if you're learning from Brunson if you're seeing Brunson make the right reads every night, you go back and you sit down and you watch game film, things like that. As to where, like I said, yeah, Rose, we may get him for a contender next season, but if God forbid he gets hurt or something, then it's like, all right, now we're back at square one. I think one thing that a lot of people in the NBA have abandoned is you forget like how strong your bench really needs to be. Like I said, if starters go down and things like that. And I think that's one of the reasons that when we had the 4th seed that made us so good was our bench was superb. And to me, I think the style of play, I like IQ fitting together as a whole with the bench than just having Rose for situational contending moments.
Okay. Jarrell, if we were to trade for Donovan Mitchell, would you rather keep Rose or IQ if we have a choice?
If we got a choice. Well, yeah, I'd rather. It's almost, to me, it seems like an obvious choice. To IQ is because he's younger. But there are some downsides. I'm not saying that he's a better player than Derrick Rose now. He's not. But like going forward, because of his age, to keep Derrick Rose just for one season, and we don't even know if he's going to be healthy that season, for him to play all season as the backup point guard. Say if we do lose IQ and keep Rose, we would have to bring in another backup point guard. Because
yeah.
Right. We would definitely have to, because we wouldn't be able to count on Derrick Rose for 82 games.
Deuce.
Deuce.
Nah.
No way. Yeah, it can't be Deuce. Much as I love Deuce, he's not ready to be a point guard either. We're going to talk about IQ not being a point guard.
Yeah. I'm just pandering for the chat.
I know.
Yeah. Because remember, and that's a real possibility when your backup has injury histories. Remember, we had Kimber, we had Rose. He was like, what if both of them go down? And they did. And that got us into
we got Alec Burks as our point guard for all seasons.
Right. So I think that's a good point. If you have Rose backing up Brunson, you still have to have a 3rd string point guard that you feel confident putting out in playoff type games,
right.
or yeah. So yeah, that's a very good point.
And at this point, it would have to be somebody off the street if you want to go in just going into next season.
Yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts on the rumor that the Knicks don't want to? I don't. It's hard for me to think that Grimes and Rose will be deal breakers, but just what's your thoughts on what is that saying that the Knicks don't want to include Rose? That makes me think that they're looking at him as more than situational, maybe.
I think that's a little crazy. I think, to me, that's crazy. I don't believe the reports. That doesn't really make sense to me. Like, it really does not make sense to hold up a trade for Derrick Rose or Grimes.
Well, would like to keep him out. Would like to keep him out.
I think you made a great point when saying maybe they know Quickley's already in the deal, and they don't want to lose Quickley and Rose, because now who's the backup point guard?
No, but even I guess my point is, even if we have Rose, who's the backup point guard? Because he's not going to be able to play every game.
I mean, to Queen's point,
12 minutes.
16 minutes.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be playing like 20. Like when
if Brunson's playing 32
plus,
it's only 48. It's only 48 in the game, and like she said, conservative 32.
I guess I don't see him playing like a whole season, even at 12 minutes a game.
And see, and one of the other things is like Jarrell said, like, all right, so if IQ is gone, then you have to go get somebody off the street, right? And then, like I said, Derrick Rose goes down. You have somebody who's never played with the bench before. They've never played under tips before. So, like, when you talk about bench chemistry, you have somebody that now the other 4 guys need to learn how to play with this guy. At least with the bench and IQ, like IQ and all these guys have played together, so they've started to get accustomed to where everybody likes to be. And like I said, I think it's probably one of the most unspoken things of is, like I said, your chemistry of your bench needs to be strong going, especially when you're talking about playoff stretches and long run down the season.
But I think you could develop that though. Like I wouldn't like Hartenstein never played. He's going to be playing on the bench. That he's going to have to find his way. It's basketball. It's not rocket science. It's basketball. So it's great if you do have guys who've played together and they already have that chemistry. But I wouldn't not make a move or bring somebody in because I really want to preserve the chemistry. I agree. Initially, it may take some.
Well, I'm talking about from like the point guard role, at least, because Hartenstein's not going to be point. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody who's coming up, getting into the flow of the offense.
Even that, like say Rose and IQ is not here, and we bring in Beverly. I would love. You think he wouldn't be able to run with that second team? Like I think initially there might be some hiccups, but over the course of a season, I think they will re-gel. So if that's a word,
I was going to say,
and he's not ball dominant, so I think it may be even easier for him to come. Beverly speaking, come and fit right in, because it's not like he's a true orchestrator. It's not like he's a ball dominant guard. Like he really is a role filler. I'm gonna play hard-nosed defense on whoever you want me to guard, whether it's 6'9" or 6 foot. I'm gonna shoot open threes. I don't know what his percentage is, but I know he don't hesitate to shoot it if he's open. And he's just an agitator. So I think he could come in and he's not gonna be asked to orchestrate, but he could come in and just fit in with whoever is on the bench. You know what I mean? Because he just has to play his role.
I was going to say the only caveat to what I was saying before is if we bring in a backup point guard in the trade with Donovan Mitchell.
Unfortunately,
it can't be Beverly though.
Right. He would have to. We can still get him in, but it would have to be in a separate trade.
Right. Yeah, that's different. Like if we can get a backup point guard in the trade, or if it's a 3-team trade and we can get a backup point guard for somebody else, then yeah, it's a completely different story. But if I'm not just going with Derrick Rose for all season, no, can't do that. No.
And would you see Rose as the second team point guard or the third team point guard?
I guess it depends on who comes in. Like to me, he's going to be situational regardless. Like somebody's going to have to play those minutes in the middle of the season that Derrick Rose is not going to play.
Right. I mean, I think if we bring in somebody like DJ Augustine, I think Rose is the backup. And if he gets injured, you would bring in DJ.
Right.
But if you bring in Pat Bev,
that's different. Yeah, Pat Bev is the backup then.
I don't even know why you would do that if that's
quick sidebar on point guards. You got Dennis Schroeder, Avery Bradley also available. Just a quick sidebar.
Right.
See, if you could bring one of them in with Derrick Rose and no IQ, then I'm cool.
Bradley would be a nice third stringer or flip flop, whichever way you want to go. and
that's a Tibbs kind of player,
and brings the defense. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I just want to
I don't know how old he is though.
31.
But I say he ain't old as Rose.
Avery
old
Bradley,
as him.
Avery Bradley will be 32 when the season starts.
Right.
I was patiently waiting to say this, and by no means am I saying that Grimes is the backup point guard, but let's go back when Grimes was a top 10 player coming out of high school in that same class with RJ and Zion and them and Ja, and this guy was point guard / shooting guard. He has point guard history. He showed playmaking ability in the summer league, and I think if you in a pinch and you need somebody, I'm not saying he's the backup. That's not my point. But if we need somebody, he can fill a role as needed.
Like Al Burks. He's gonna be Burks Jr. pretty much.
With something like.
I see exactly what you're saying. Though. I get it.
So I'm just like, if there's like any concerns about if we have Rose and he's not available, then who's gonna play, things like that. So you have him also.
And if the entire team, or if multiple guys are on the team are able to initiate the offense, like grab the rebound, bring the ball up, which we've seen Sims do a couple times in summer league. Shout out to Sims. But that negates the need for a full-time backup. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's or just a facilitating point guard. If it's really about getting a rebound and initiating or bringing the ball up, I think we have multiple guys that are capable to do that, like throughout the team. And I just want last thing, Hartenstein. Like I think we could run an offense through him, like on some throwback Joakim Noah type stuff. So don't be surprised if that helps. With the lack of with the missing
point guard.
Point guard.
Were you watching the Uncle Freezy's show with the guy doing the advanced stats on Hartenstein?
No,
I was not.
You sound just like him. I mean, that's the guy with the advanced
he's a good
stats.
playmaker though.
That he had the same advanced stats as Joker, and he was saying the same thing about the Joker. People thought he was crazy.
I ain't saying all that though. That's crazy. I ain't saying all that.
When he gets the opportunity, you can run the offense through him. That's exactly what he says. So I thought you watched the show.
Steph, please go back to the
shout out to Frizzy. Yeah, I heard you say it. Jokic. You said
Joker light. Joker light. Go back to the videotape.
You did.
And listen, you know what it is? I played high school and we ran a high post offense where we got the center right at that foul line, in that loop between the foul line and the 3-point circle. And that's what we gave it to the big man and allowed them to find the players in the corner or the player cutting to the hoop. And, I would much rather, I'd be great to have a CP3 type of ball handling point guard. I'm old school, but to Gavin's point, like it's more positionless players right now. So, if you got guys, just get it up court. All right, good. Give it to the big guy in the middle. And let's figure it out.
Right. I mean, back to Rose, I have another question, and then we can anything else we want to talk about the next we can. What about the experience factor? Taj is no longer on the team. If we lose Rose, is there any concern in terms of leadership? Now, Brunson is 25. I do think he's an old soul, so to speak. He seems to be mature beyond his age when it comes to like
completely understand that
and things like that. I don't think he's going to be rattled in these tough situations. I mean, when he played and performed, didn't just play in the Western Conference finals. He performed well, so he's used to that. Do you think you want to keep Rose for the experience factor, or do you think that with Brunson, it's not as big of a need? I'll start with Jarrell, and then I'll come. No, let's start with Stafford. I haven't heard from Stafford. Let's start with Stafford.
Could you rephrase the question again, please?
Do you think we need to keep Rose on the roster for the experience factor, given how we lost Taj, or do you feel with Brunson here, even though he's 25, he seems to be an experienced player, that there's less of a need for Rose for experience purposes?
I still think we could still keep Rose, as you're saying. He don't have to show it on the court, but he could, show them certain aspects of the game while he's sitting down and they come to the bench, and he let Bronson know, well, listen, so and so is the case, or what he need to do. So it's always good to have a veteran on the bench, even if he's not playing, and Bronson get the bulk of the minutes. He could still be a mentor to him as an experience factor, telling him, I seen this in the league many, many years ago, and just teach him certain things that he not seeing that he saw before, so he could follow and learn. Just like somebody said earlier, he teach IQ certain aspects of the game, and IQ has gotten better. So it's all about growth, and keeping Rose, to mentor these young guys is a good thing with the experience factor. So yeah, look, Derrick Rose, he's a good guy, and I think he could be a great teacher.
Okay. Anybody else? Is experience a factor in keeping Rose, or not really? You don't think we need it?
Does this mean is this predicated on getting Mitchell or not, or doesn't matter? Just
Doesn't
Rose,
matter.
period. I think if say we did have Mitchell, with Mitchell and Brunson on the team, they both have been, past the first round of playoffs. So, yeah, I'm much. See, I don't want to crap on Derrick Rose. I've been crapping on Derrick Rose the whole show, but yeah, I don't think it's a necessity, but it'll be nice to have, or somebody else can come in if we don't have him. But I don't think his leadership is predicated for us to move forward in any type of playoff run or anything. I think we already have players. At least Jalen Brunson has just last year went to the Western Conference Finals. So I think, because of that, I think we'll be fine.
I'll say I already was factoring in his experience, and that's part of his value for sure. And I think he can still, he can still teach a Brunson. You know what I mean? Even with Brunson's Western Conference experience and everything. So I think it's part of, I factored that in my in my previous statements, and that's a huge part of his value. You know what I mean? Even that's part of why I feel like he can be situational, because I think he's still valuable on that bench. He's still valuable, to whomever is still on the team. And I mean, he's looked at throughout the league. It's not even about the Knicks. Like, throughout the league, players respect him. You know what I mean? Young and old alike. So I think definitely that's part of his value.
Yeah, I'd hate to have the turnover, losing Taj and losing D Rose. To me, like, whether you get Spider or you don't, this is a team that should be, without Spider, team is competing for the playoffs. With Spider, this team should not be missing the playoffs. So in either case, like, not having a veteran voice, to me, Brunson 4 years, Mitchell 5 years, like, they're not young players per se anymore because of the minutes that they've played, the games that the quality of games that they've played. Yeah, but they're not OGs though. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And to me, again, I said earlier, every good team needs an OG. This is not college. We're not talking about the Fab Five. You know what I'm saying? This is the NBA. You're trying to make a playoff run. You need an OG on your team, even if the guy doesn't play. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Even if you get IQ as the backup and he's getting the majority of the minutes, all the backup minutes, Rose is situational, plays a little bit, doesn't play because IQ is just killing it. You know what I'm saying? Partly why he's going to be killing it is because he's got Rose in his corner, you know, and just having somebody that could be an extension of the coach in the locker room, talk to the guys, players only meetings, things like that. Like, we can't depend on Randall for that. You understand? You know, Brunson's a new guy. His father's here. We can't really think he's just going to come in here taking over that. You understand? So, so Rose is the guy. You know what I'm saying? He's anointed as that guy, and that's not even a question about that. To me, I don't even really see how it could be. But if he's gone, and he's gone because you got to make the Spider deal, and to me, if you reduce draft picks to and you got to include Rose, listen, you got to do what you got to do. I dig it.
Right.
But if Rose is here, I mean, he's the certified triple OG.
I mean, to your point, you can't underestimate that performing in the playoffs is different. Because when you think about the year we went to the playoffs, he was the only one that really showed up for us. You know, so if we go back to the playoffs, I feel confident in Brunson performing in the playoffs. I would feel comfortable in Derrick Rose performing in the playoffs. If Mitchell is here, I would feel comfortable with, that Mitchell is going to show up. After those three,
Question mark.
it would be, I want to let's see,
Right.
if so and so is going to show up in the playoffs. But those three, I would put money on.
Can I give a hot take?
Yeah.
I think Derrick Rose played so well in the playoffs for us that it caused Tibbs to make the biggest mistake, which I'm ready for the tomatoes, which was benching Elfrid Payton in starting Derrick Rose, which changed the whole dynamic of the rest of the team. You know what I mean? Because what it took away.
Tomatoes, just stars, because you're right. You're right. Because the only thing we had going for us was our bench.
Yep.
Even if their first team outplayed us, we knew that our bench was going to come up and make that up. And Derrick Rose was a part of that. And in my opinion, when you put him with the first team, we still didn't outplay their starters, and our bench was weakened, so we couldn't even outplay their bench to try to catch up. And that was game. So I agree. But to DJ Shuttle's point, if we're going to the playoffs, you take Rose off this team, the only one you know for sure that's going to show up is Brunson. Now, if Donovan is here too, that's a very good point.
And Queen, that was kind of my thing too. I mean, you think Derrick Rose, right, going into his 14th season, been to the playoffs 8 times. 2 Eastern Conference semis and 1 Eastern Conference Finals, all while being the number 1 option in the face of a franchise, right? I think that when you look at today's game and you think about the younger players, there is, especially when you're being the number 1 option, I don't think that most of them have the voice in the air on how to really handle like you see with Randall, right? When going to the playoffs and not performing against Atlanta, right? There's just a different added pressure. But I even think about the things if it's a 1 or 2 point game in the playoffs and we need people to come in for free throws, like,
right,
I would bring in Derrick Rose, and if they're like, because I can't rely on Julius to make a free throw in clutch time if there's a lot of pressure, right? If we're thinking about the playoffs and this is we need this to go to the next round or this elimination game, right?
Or
I can't
RJ
even
to
trust.
this point.
I was just about to say, I can't even trust RJ. I
Right.
can't even trust RJ to do it. Now, that's one thing with Quickley, right? Quickley, he got up to like the 92, 93% range last year. But you think about a playoff game and, we need these 2 free throws right here. Like I said, Derrick Rose has been there 8 times. So like to DJ Shuttle's point, I think you do need that OG, and that's why you see that Miami has kept Udonis Haslam around so long. And people always say, "Why is he on the team? He's taking somebody else's roster spot. He's the 14th guy off the bench. 14th guy off the bench ain't playing. So it doesn't matter if they give it to Udonis Haslam or if they get somebody in the G League or from overseas. That person's not playing. But you see, like you said, he's been under Spo for so long. He's an extension for the coach. Like I said, you want your point guard to be an extension of the coach, but Brunson being the extension of Tibbs versus D Rose being the extension of Tibbs is very different. And so that's why I said I think that is, if we're talking about contending, that's where I don't mind keeping Rose around, even if we extend him for, hey, we're going to keep you on another 2, 3, 4 years on the veterans minimum. Because, like I said, we need somebody when it comes around to this time. Hey, come in. Like I said, you can talk to the players aside from Tibbs and really teach people like how to compose yourself in the playoffs. Teach them how to approach things and really, although Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson, they've been to the playoffs before, how to really let the game slow down and don't get overtaken and overwhelmed by the moment, to where you make dumb turnovers. You clutch up last second bad shots because you think you have to be the one to take the shot, and we need this shot right here to put us up. So,
and both those guys are aspiring to be that guy, right? Rose
Exactly.
has been that guy already, so he knows what it takes to be that guy, and who better, again, goes back to that respect he has throughout the league. Who better to learn the nuances of, hey, I want how to be that guy. You know what I mean? And Mitchell more so, I believe, than Brunson. But I mean, Brunson believes in himself just as much and just as well. But as athleticism and like similar games, I would put Mitchell in that realm. So who better to like learn from of how to just be that guy and strive to be a MVP and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the and then I'll get to whoever that was. You know what? I think that's probably the strongest point for keeping Rose that we talked about, right? We talked about experience, those things. But in the playoffs, how many players, if we get to the playoffs, are playoff tested? He would be one of two, him and Brunson, at the most important spots, too. Because things can change quickly in an NBA game, but they can definitely change quickly in a playoff. You got a 5-point lead, your starting point guard goes out. Next thing you know, you're down 2. Because the other team went on a 7-0 run. So whoever you have playing that backup spot has to make good decisions, to make sure you stay in the game. So that's actually the best argument, in my opinion, for keeping Rose, is just his playoff experience, if that's what we're aspiring to. Somebody else wanted to say something? I didn't mean to cut you off.
I just like Rose's presence, because there's nothing like you walk around the league and like you walk into an arena, like it's still Derrick effing Rose. You understand what I'm saying? Like it's still Derrick effing Rose. Put some respect on his name. You understand? Like he walks into that arena, you go to shake hands with the team. It's like, okay, this is the Knicks. Brunson, Mitchell, RJ, Randall. Okay. Oh, now they got D Rose with them too. He making sure them young boys is right. It just as a player competing against that, it's a whole different perspective. You lose a guy like Rose, don't get me wrong. Brunson's been cool. Mitchell's put up numbers, but those guys are not into the mental space in people's heads the way a player like Derrick Rose is. And like I played against Kenny Anderson and got bust. So like I know what it's like when you're going against a top-notch player. You know what I'm saying? And it's something you can't really qualify, without being in that position, I don't think.
I hear you. I would be hard for me to say that Donovan Mitchell or even Brunson at this point is not in people's heads when they play it. But
you compare that to D Rose though.
D Rose now is
because I
old D Rose though, like he's 34. I don't think he's striking fear in nobody's heart no more.
No, not D Rose, the player striking Rose per se himself when he gets on the court. Exactly, but just his presence on the team to the other players.
Okay.
It's more that not no. I mean, this is not MVP Rose. I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping.
Because and plus a lot of this talk we just talking about for one season.
Your camera is on us.
Stafford, yeah. I think he's frozen.
Yeah, he froze.
The D Rose talk we just talked about for one season, right? Like you picking him up for the 15 after next year?
Well, you got to waive him, and you got to sign him to a team friendly deal, because you know, I mean, we're not bringing him back for $15 million,
right?
We ain't doing that.
And I'm pretty sure he knows that, being that it's a team option. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure. I mean, when you sign it, you know that is a option that's on the contract. So you know, I mean, you know it's there. There's no way you sign that in your contract and then say, oh, there's no way they're not gonna, you know what I mean, pick it up. So
no, he knows it right now. He's not picking it up.
Right. Anything else on Derrick Rose that I didn't cover or that you want to expound on?
I just want to apologize for being so harsh on Quickley. I just want to apologize. I don't want no tomatoes for that. I want to apologize. You know what I'm saying?
They was hot at you in the chat, bro. They was hot.
I wasn't looking.
It was hot.
I wasn't looking, but you know, listen, IQ did make some strides, yes. But I was a point guard, so if I'm judging any position super highly critical, I'm judging point guard play. Like decision making, you mentioned this, Steph. Decision making, his decision making is like a D. You know what I'm saying? His shot selection is like a D. His ability to get others involved is like improved and still like a C-. You know what I'm saying? So like, I can't just be like, oh, longevity wise, I want to just give it to him, because honestly, I feel like the team should be looking to find somebody else better to be the backup point guard.
Right. And see, in a perfect world, you would have Brunson and Donovan, and you would have IQ. If you are an IQ fan, backing up both spots. Otherwise, I don't really see where he's getting a lot of minutes, right? Because if you have those two spots, that's 40. That's like 96 minutes between three people. You're talking about at least 30. He can get at least 28 something minutes a game.
Who?
But you as a combo.
If he plays both, yeah.
As a combo. Once you have Grimes as a backup, 2, whoever's playing the backup 1, how many minutes are you going to get behind Brunson? It's not going to be a lot of minutes behind Brunson. And I think that's something the front office has to be aware of, because Quickley and Obi are both up for contracts the following year. How many minutes is going to be available behind Randall? And everybody saying, oh, we'll put Randall at the 5. You got Hartenstein and Mitch. How you doing that? You know, whenever you moving somebody around, that's going to be, because this team is so balanced, that's going to be less minutes for somebody else. So you move Randall to the 5, that means Mitch and or Hartenstein's minutes are going to be decreased. You want to play IQ at the 2 with Grimes? How you going to do that? All right, so then move Grimes over to the 3. So what about Cam? You understand what I'm saying? That's how balanced this team is. Whoever you are on the second team, you stuck behind the person. You can't be moving people around, or you're going to affect other minutes as well.
Because say if you said you wanted the IQ to play just 12 minutes, that's like cutting his minutes from last year almost in half.
All right,
and it doesn't even seem like he played that much last year, but he played over 20 minutes last year again.
Well,
but look who the strong point guard was.
And
I know. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be like that. I'm saying you just got to think about, like Steph said, his contract is coming up just like Obi's. Like they're about to cut his playing time in half if they don't make him a combo. If he's just strictly backing up Brunson and only playing 12 minutes, he played 24 last year or 23 or something like that. So yeah, he's not going to want to do that. He's going to push to play both spots. To me, he has to.
Right.
I agree.
I like Grimes too much. I like Grimes too much. I like Grimes too much with the 2, and I don't like Quickley enough to be benching Cam.
But that's what I'm saying. So
that's the problem,
a lot of us want the young guys to play more. I think they're going to play less.
Yep.
Because the team is so balanced. How many minutes is Cam getting behind RJ?
Right. Even if Cam is strictly the backup small forward, he's still only going to play like 13
Tony was
minutes.
like, wait, hold up, Cam.
But he's not going to play that much. He can't.
Yeah. RJ played 34 minutes a game last year. You keep him at 34 minutes, Cam would be playing 14 minutes a game. And everybody at the backup role would be somewhere between 12 to 15 minutes, 13 to 15, 13 to 16 minutes a game. That would go for IQ / Rose, for Grimes, for Cam, for Obi, and even maybe Hardison is probably the only guy that's going to be getting 20 to 20. That's going to be getting maybe 50-50 of the minutes at center.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Grimes at 28, if they're here, I don't know if it's going to be 50-50, but I can see a 28.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, true.
You know, Paris Duggar Quickley is playing over Cam. They play totally different positions.
Right.
Totally different positions.
Well, he's probably assuming that Grimes is going to be playing the 3, like Staff said.
Oh.
Or that.
Right.
I mean, that's where really Grimes is playing over, or is Cam playing over Grimes?
Yeah, that's the question you need to have then. Is Cam playing over Grimes, not IQ? Yeah, I don't think so either.
Even if it's at the 3.
That's what I'm trying to say. When you start moving people around, that's less minutes for somebody. So if you move, you're talking about moving Grimes to the 3. When you
a lot of people have been saying that. So I'm saying, if it's at the 3 spot, do you value Grimes over Cam, or is it only at that 2 spot where he's valued over Quickley?
I don't like Grimes at the 3. I don't like Grimes at the 3.
See,
neither do I.
And I think, I think the advantage that Cam has is Cam is 6'7",
8.
You know, with a 7-foot wingspan. So when you talk about guarding the 3s, sliding that, God forbid Cam has to slide down for the 4. He can play the 2, 3, and the 4.
Yep.
Grimes, although yes, he's 6'5", he's not going to be able just to easily slide down to the 3 spot. Definitely can't slide over to the 4. So I think that's kind of where Cam has the leg up. Is you can put him 2 to 3. He can guard 1 to 4.
Switches.
So.
I don't think he may have that versatility, but I don't think he'll be playing a 4. I think if Obi be playing a 4, but he has that the versatility to do so. I think those backup spots are going to be locked. I don't really see a lot of movement. Like I don't see. Now, one thing I will say that Tibbs did say that Grimes has the ability to play the 3 defensively. He did
last year a little bit.
Which makes me think that he's not adverse to, because the thing about it is you may be able to shoot over him, but I don't know how much you're going to overpower him,
Right.
But we'll see. I just think that the 10-man rotation, that second unit is just whoever is going to be the 2 is going to be the 2. That person is not going to be the 2 and the 3 unless there's injuries. Let me just bring up Josh. Shout out for the super chat. Injuries will happen. Injuries will happen. It's a good problem for us. Yes, and that's where the versatility comes in. If Obi was to get hurt, or if Randall was to get hurt, you could start Obi. You can move Cam, over to play backup 4. But if nobody gets hurt, I think there's going to be limited minutes in that second unit.
The only thing I can say is that, we do kind of value Cam probably more than any other player on the team based on potential from glimpses that we have seen. Yes. And if he underwhelms, then the argument for an IQ Rose backcourt with Grimes at small forward could potentially pan out on occasions.
And we have seen it already. We've seen it already. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
we
It's
didn't.
not
We
like
didn't see that.
Tibbs hasn't done it before. We've seen it
We didn't.
already.
No, we didn't see
No,
IQ
not with
Rose with
Cam
Grimes. Not with
or
Grimes.
Oh,
Now we saw IQ and
yeah,
Rose
we have seen it with Grimes.
with IQ and Rose.
No,
Yeah.
Rose was injured. Oh yeah, and before he got injured, IQ Rose and
I think a
Grimes.
little-
This was
a little bit,
in the first season. When Randall had his good season.
No,
COVID year.
Grimes
No.
wasn't in it.
Grimes wasn't on that team. Grimes only
Grimes a
just
rookie.
played. He only played one season.
This is second year coming.
right. But last year he
Grimes
did play.
Grimes didn't
But
play his
yeah,
rookie season.
He switched between 2 and 3 last year a little bit, but yeah, not that much. But
Right.
what you're talking about is from 2 years ago. Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Right, but Grimes wasn't on the team 2 years ago. He's a
Yeah,
rookie.
but-
He just played.
Yeah, this is sophomore year coming.
See, the only thing that I have against Grimes, well, two things. For the most part, Quickley I think maybe so far through his 3 seasons, has only been injured one time. He had a little strained groin. I think the thing with Grimes is his knee injury, but he also had 2 or 3 injuries in college. So although they haven't been severe injuries, his injury history is longer than Quickley's. But probably the only other knock that I have on Grimes is for me is where I said that like Quickley is going to look for his shot and look to score the ball. To me, Grimes doesn't look to get his shot off, and he doesn't. And there's times where he looks hesitant to shoot the ball.
I think
Right.
that's why they put him in the position they did in summer league.
Yeah,
Yeah,
force
they
that
said
out
be
of him.
Jordan. Be Jordan. Go out there and be Jordan.
I think
and
that's
that-
similar to the year before they put Quickley in the position to run the team and show point guard ability. So
But see-
I think that's what they're looking for from him moving forward, similar
See-
to what they did with Quickley.
And this is something that I just had a conversation about with my homeboy today. See, that's one thing. Like, I don't really make a whole lot of summer league or like these Drew leagues and stuff because obviously you're going to have a chance to do a lot more in the summer league, and Grimes is playing against rookies. Like all that looking for his shot looks good in summer league. That doesn't necessarily mean that's translating over to him actually looking to get his shot off.
Gavin,
in
it
the
didn't
regular season.
translate. It didn't translate in summer league. He shot bad. The point I'm making is it was the mindset. Go out there and be the guy. Go out there and be aggressive. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying like he killed it in summer league. He shot bad. Like if you're being real, but it was nice to see him work on some things that I think the Knicks are looking for from him moving forward.
See, but that's kind of the thing, like, and that just may be my style of basketball. Like, I don't want to have to tell somebody, go look for your shot. Like, go get your shot off. Like, you've made up to the NBA, Leo. If you have a matchup and you can take somebody one-on-one, go look for your shot. If you're catching the ball,
depends on your goal too, though.
Yeah, and look who he's playing with. You know what I mean? Like he kind of had to. Like he's playing with Randall. He's playing with RJ. It's a pecking order. So sometimes you do gotta tell him like, "Yo, shoot the ball." You know what I mean? Like that's what we drafted you for. Sometimes you do have to push people. But I agree, it's a bad thing.
D Wade had to tell LeBron, "You're LeBron James." So if D Wade had to tell LeBron, "Yo, fam, do what you gotta do," like how is Grimes not able to have a similar type of conversation?
Right.
See, the only thing that I say about that is that's like LeBron coming over to like D Wade's team. It's not like he's not just a role player, you know. So that's LeBron coming over to D Wade's team.
He's a rookie with a Randall. This is Randall's team with a RJ. This is you know what I mean. RJ's the future. Like that's what I'm saying. Like now I agree with you though, because that's the difference between him and a Quickley. You don't have to tell Quickley, hey, go shoot the ball.
Care.
Like Quickley is gonna say, "Oh, I can make this."
That's the problem.
Why? I mean, you're. It's a gift and a curse. You know what I mean? It's a gift and a curse.
Right.
Because you miss. What's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
You don't take.
Right.
So I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. I just wanted to point out that I think the team has acknowledged that, and I would say he has too, and that's what they were looking. That's why he was put in that role in summer league. the same way they did it with Quickley and said, hey, we want you to be more of a facilitator, more of a playmaker, more of a leader on the court. Or take some, think about the shots you taking and if that's the right read. And so I think it's all about the development. You know what I mean? He's a rookie. He got to get there. Not everybody comes in like that.
Right. But that was his role. And that was Quickley's role too. But he's just such a nut. He just going to do what he want to do anyway. You know, I think that's your role. I'm sure they told him.
Part of my disdain.
Right. I think that's what they told him. Your job is to come in and hit the 3-point shot. Play off of those guys. Relocate. When you see them driving or what have you, relocate, get in their vision so that they can see you. And when you get the shot, don't hesitate to knock it down. This is pre-injury. He did that superbly. And
you heard him.
And guard your position. And he did that superbly. If he does nothing else in the NBA, I will take that. You know, and he'll do and he will do more. But that was his role. If he would have took the ball and start putting it between his legs and rocking, trying to get you come out. Because that's not what we're asking you to do right now. And to be honest, you're doing too much. And to be honest, I don't even see that next year. Only thing I can see in terms of the evolution, and this is what they will allow him to do, is when they run you off the 3-point line, put the ball on the floor.
Right.
Whether it's a range shot or whether that's to drive and dish. I see that as the evolution of his game. But I don't think they're going to allow him to do too much, especially if Donovan Mitchell is on his team. I just don't see his role getting much, much put it that way.
And I mean, if Mitchell's here, that means he's not starting. So maybe his role in the second unit is more advanced than what it was with his time with the Randalls and the RJs. So maybe he does get an expanded role if it's in that second unit, with that second unit. Because it's all about who, you know what I mean? The pecking order on the court. Yeah, with you. So.
And now that he's got a year under his belt, he's going to be more confident, being like, all right, they told me to take charge. I'm taking charge now because, you know, listen, you gotta do what you told to do a little bit too, you know.
That's the thing. But if Mitchell is here, he might get less minutes. It's the same problem we had before. Like he's going to get less minutes than he had last year too.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Maximize those minutes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's true. And which is fine. I'm okay with it. Shout out to Paris Duggar. Young deep roster is to keep salaries under a max. I hear you. Rowan Creary, Obi getting 30 minutes per game this year. No, he's not. Unless they trade Randall, if this team comes back the way it is right now, he's gonna get less minutes.
Right. Shout to you, Rowan.
You know, unless they trade Randall, I don't see. And maybe the chat can help me out here. I don't see a path forward for more minutes because again. You put Randall to the 5 so Obi can get more minutes at the 4. That's less minutes for Mitch, less minutes for Hartenstein. You put Randall at the 3, which I don't think is going to happen, so Obi can get more minutes at the 4. That's less minutes for Cam. That's why I kind of think these guys are kind of locked unless you're going to move some guys so that IQ can back up both the 1 and the 2, or Cam can back up both the 2 and the 3. That's how I can see you getting more minutes. But if there's one person behind each spot in a 10-man rotation, I think the backup players are going to get even less.
Listen, Randall played 35 minutes last year. Maybe his minutes get down to 32.
But why?
Because you have a better roster. Because Obi has developed and he's proven worthy of the minutes. They've got more confidence in him now. And Randall also proved in the fourth quarters to maybe
be tired.
Yep. Be tired.
Yes.
So now, well, he looks in better shape. They probably told him about that, and he knew that. But to preserve him some, maybe instead of letting him play that entire third quarter,
Yeah.
you know, they're bringing him out at like the 8-9 minute mark. Letting Obi get a nice run, bring Randall in with like 8 minutes left, and let him finish the game.
Only thing, Randall is in shape and he doesn't have to handle the ball anymore, though. Like his role is different than it was last year too.
Yeah, but if RJ is better, if Brunson brings great stability, I mean the demands will be less on Randall. Maybe the team's overall performing better, so you don't feel obligated. Yo, I can't take Randall out because I don't got nobody else.
Right.
So you know what? I could give him a little bit more of a spill. And
maybe we blowing teams out.
Maybe we blowing some teams
be
out.
nice.
Hello.
Never
That's
know.
what I'm talking about.
That'd be nice.
You know what I mean? And now Obi's earned his minutes in year 2 more than he was earning them in year 1. And he closed strong. So all you gotta do is just start the season strong, Obi. That's all I ask for. If you're here and you don't get traded, just start the season strong. And we can reduce Randall minutes a little bit. I'm not getting him down to 28, 29 minutes. That's not getting crazy. Because you know what it is. He's gonna play 30, 31, 32 minutes easy.
Easy. All right. Any last words before we get out of here?
I mean, great show. You talked about Derrick Rose for way longer than I thought we was going to be able to be honest. You know,
shout out to D Rose, man.
D Rose, hello.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you, Queen.
Yeah, salute to the chat too.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate y'all.
Shout out to Sim, forever grateful behind the scenes.
Yes.
Appreciate you guys.
Godfather.
You know, rocking with me. Paris Duggar, thank you for this super chat. You have to stop dragging last year into this season. That's all we got to go.
Yeah, like
until preseason comes. And you know, I always say the summer league, we get a chance to see what the rookies and second year players have worked on. The preseason is where we really get to see what our vets, you know, have worked on. And by vets, even young vets.
Yeah.
So until that happens, we got to go by, you know, last season and hope that they're, you know.
So we're not going to use last season. So we're not going to give IQ credit for performing better, and we're not going to give him no more minutes because we're not going to bring in last year.
Right.
And that's his boy too.
Obi too. We're not going to drag last year's Obi's success at the end of the season, and we're not going to try to give Obi more minutes because we don't want to drag last year.
I'm a base it off
Paris
this year.
Boys too.
I'm gonna base it off this year's summer league, and we going to the championship. Wow.
Summer league. Let's see. Let's see. DJ Shuttle, Tony, Gavin, welcome back. Jarrell, Staffer hanging in there with us. Looks like it was a long day. I appreciate you. And behind the scenes, appreciate you. We are out of here.
Out.